Namaskar and welcome to Sansad Television. I am Vishal Dahiya and you're watching our show Perspective, where we bring you detailed analysis of key national and international issues. Today we're going to talk about India's Africa outreach. Now, Vice President Venkaiah Naidu has wrapped up his three-nation visit to Gabon, Senegal and Qatar. This was the first ever high-level visit from India to two African nations, Gabon and Senegal, and it has added momentum to India's engagement with Africa and emphasized India's commitment to the African continent. During his visit, Vice President Naidu held delegation-level talks with the top leadership of both the African countries, followed by MoUs on various aspects. His visit to Senegal, in fact, coincided with 60th anniversary of establishment of diplomatic ties between both the countries. India's partnership is based on the principle of equality, mutual respect and benefit, in line with Africa-owned and Africa-led development. For more on India's Africa outreach, we're today joined by a distinguished panel of experts. Let us first meet all three of them. We have with us in the studio retired Major General Dhruv C. Katoch. He is the Director of India Foundation. Welcome to Sansad TV Studios, General Katoch. We are also joined by former Ambassador Suresh K. Goel, and Dr. Shriram Cholia, Foreign Affairs expert, is also joining us via online virtual medium. Welcome, both of you gentlemen as well. Let me begin with Ambassador Goel first. Let's start by putting things in perspective here, Ambassador Goel, in terms of explaining a bit more to our viewers the backgrounder of India-Africa relations and India's Africa outreach. And then, of course, we'll be in a better position to understand the significance of the recent visit by Vice President to these two countries.
If you permit me, I would like to narrow it down further. I have always said that when we treat the whole Africa as one continent, we tend to miss out on the granular picture of the different countries. And there are very stark differences between the South and the North Africa, between the East and the West Africa. And therefore, rather than talking about the entire African outreach program, where, of course, India has taken a lead several years ago, particularly during Prime Minister Modi's time, when we actually made the IAFS a regular event in terms of our foreign policy map. Let me say that the visit by Honorable Vice President to both Gabon and Senegal is not just a visit to two countries. It's a visit of great strategic significance, I would say. Both our countries are important countries, maritime countries in Western Africa.
Okay.
They play an important role in the connectivity projects, connectivity from both the West Africa to East Africa and towards the North. In fact, there have been conversations about the railway network, the road network from Dakar to Djibouti, etc., and therefore, that's a kind of a strategic picture that we need to talk about when we talk about the visit to Senegal and to Gabon.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, as you yourself said, that this was the first high-level visit from India to the two Western African countries, which had been rather low on our priority till now. But these two visits tend to bring them into focus. Just one last point, and we will talk about that in detail later on.
Okay.
If you recall, around 3 or 4 years ago, when Chinese President Xi Jinping, he undertook the visit to Senegal and talked about these kind of connectivity projects and the strategic role which West Africa can then play in the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So we have woken up late, but nonetheless not too late. And I think we need to build up on the relationship, both from the point of view of access to Africa, West Africa,
Okay.
as well as playing a role further down across the Atlantic Ocean.
Okay. Dr. Cholia, your views there on this aspect, which Ambassador Goel has pointed out. Of course, there has a lot which has been done vis-a-vis India's Africa outreach, and there are a lot of other opportunities as well for both India and Africa to cooperate further. But when we talk about West Africa specifically, a bit more push is required, as Ambassador Goel is referring to. Do you agree?
Yeah, definitely, Vishal. I think our initial thrust was on the eastern seaboard of Africa because it is directly connected to the western end of the Indian Ocean. So we saw this as one, broad Indian Ocean strategy of India. And historically, our diaspora, Indian diaspora, has also been present in larger numbers on this side, in Kenya, Tanzania, South Africa, Mozambique. So we used to concentrate only on the eastern side and the southern side, but now there has been, expectation for India to step in and play an important role across the continent, all 54 countries. So I think when we convened the India-Africa Forum Summit in the Modi administration, we managed to get all heads of government of all these countries to India, and that was a great start. And since then, Prime Minister has also enunciated our 10 guiding principles for engaging with Africa. And I think the trade volumes have been growing. Before the pandemic hit and interrupted all the supply chains and the flows, we are almost close to $80 billion. I mean, with the entire continent, not just one any particular country of Africa. And now the potential is tremendous. So Vice President's visit is great, well-timed, because now the Africans have come together and formed a African Continental Free Trade Agreement, ACFTA. That's combining all the member countries into a single market like the European Union and reducing or almost eliminating all tariff barriers. So I expect this to be a bigger and bigger relationship. It's a big growth area for us. And of course, it also helps to show our credentials in terms of South-South cooperation for fellow developing countries. Senegal, for example, where Venkaiah ji has just visited, Senegal, viewers will be surprised to know their rice production was increased sixfold due to India's support and with irrigation and with water systems in Senegal. Likewise, we have done sugar and agriculture growth for neighboring countries like Sudan and beyond. So I think going to West Africa is important. Nigeria is the main country there, is the number one leader, but Senegal is also very important. Gabon is, of course, a smaller country. But I think we are also looking at other reasons why these countries are useful. For the moment, Senegal holds the African Union chair. So it convenes all the 54 member countries. So for India to access the market, for India to be able to be accepted there in a bigger way, and for India to play a constructive role for the development of these countries, Senegal is valuable as a conduit. And same with Gabon. Now we share the Security Council non-permanent seats. They're also there. And we have to coordinate positions with them. So apart from the trade and the commerce and the people-to-people linkage, there are also some intergovernmental mechanisms. The WTO system also, we are now coordinating closely with African countries for justice on patents, on trade-related intellectual property rights, on vaccines. So there are many things. I think it's a multi-dimensional developmental partnership, but with also a security angle, especially with the Indian Ocean side. But with the Atlantic coast, with the Western Africa, I think we are looking to just make a presence there. We have opened more embassies, as you have just informed the viewers. Modi government has said that Africa is important to us, it's primary to us. It's not secondary to us. And that's how we also become an important power in the international order, by being present in other countries of the global south.
Indeed. There are various dimensions to this, General Katoch. I'd like to bring you in here, and obviously on the aspect of strategic and security significance as well. But if we focus on, Vice President Naidu's recent visit to these two countries, the Western African countries, how significant do you think it is in pushing these aspects, strategic and security as well, and the overall geopolitical construct which we keep on talking about? Of course, nations like Senegal and Gabon are as equally important as any other nation.
Thank you, Vishal. Let me focus on the larger global picture first. When Narendra Modi, when the government took over first time in 2014, there was a concerted attempt to actually have a global outreach. And one of the things which they said which was said by the Prime Minister and by the External Affairs Minister, was that we will endeavor to visit every country in the globe at least once a year by any minister of the government of India, or the President, or the Vice President, or the Prime Minister. Now, this has been, that means in any 1 year, you will visit more than 100 countries. Now, that is why when you're looking at the particular, the visit of the Vice President, you find a senior dignitary of the level of the Vice President actually visiting here. Now, if you just take the previous year, the President, the Vice President, and the Prime Minister made 34 visits to different countries. Now, that is, I think, when we are looking at India and when we are looking at ourselves in the future, we have positioned ourselves as major players in the global arena. This is one. Number two, when we are looking at each and every country, there are 54 countries in Africa, and we have now got diplomatic relations with 47 of them. 18 of them have been added in the recent past. Now, I think this is a very significant development, because one thing which people must remember, every country has one vote in the United Nations General Assembly. So whether you're a big country or a small country, you land up with one vote. And I think this is something which India is now trying to use to its advantage also, by maintaining good relations with every single country. So Africa is very important for us. And the third reason why Africa, and I think there was a recent survey carried out that when we are looking a decade or 2 decades hence, the major economic development now is going to take place in the continent, in the African continent. This is the place where the future growth lies. So, having said that, why the western coast? Now, obviously, we know that our security interests are really on the eastern coast of Africa, and then they stretch all the way in the Indian Ocean, South China Sea, and then they extend to the Pacific, onto the American coastline. Now, that is what we are talking about, the Indo-Pacific construct. But we also see a large entry of China into Africa. And now it is incumbent upon us to also say that, listen, we are also a major presence. And I think when we are looking into that, the visit of the Vice President with a very important delegation, we had a Minister of State from the Health Ministry there, along with members of Parliament accompanying the Vice President, going to West Africa to 2 critical countries. When we're looking at Gabon, they are a member of the Security Council, non-permanent member. And when we're looking at Senegal, it is the President of the African Union. So they are very, very important countries, and I think it is also signaling. It is signaling our interest in Africa. It is not, of course, you can't visit everybody at the same time, but visiting these two has laid the doors open that even Western Africa is India's sphere of interest.
Indeed, indeed. That is a clear indication as to what India is trying to send in terms of the message across. Ambassador Goel, as all of us are aware, the Africa of today's time is a lot different from what Africa was perhaps 3 decades ago or 4 decades ago as well. And as General Katoch was also referring to, the future of development lies in Africa as well. A lot of opportunities. Now, from India's perspective, more than 200 lines of credit have been extended to various African countries. There are various people-oriented projects as well which are going on, some of them mentioned by you and other panelists as well. The question I'm asking is, what are the key potential areas or sectors where from here onwards both India and Africa can see a lot of opportunity in terms of better cooperation between both sides?
Now, Vishal, that's a very, very good idea that you have put forward, and a very good question, really. I have served in Africa for more or less 8 years, both in North and South Africa. Now, one thing I find when we are working in Africa, we tend to drive the agenda depending upon what our interests are. In that process of our interests, we tend to forget very often, like you said, that Africa is not the same, or African countries are not the same countries as they were during the period of decolonization in the 60s and 70s. Today's Africa and the African countries are far, far more ambitious. And they are looking at the future from the point of view of development of infrastructure in their own countries, creating jobs, employments, creating economic opportunities for their people, which can actually spur the growth. They are mostly agricultural and primary commodities. And therefore, any help coming from any country in terms of those primary commodities and agriculture is welcome, but they are looking for far, far beyond just the primary commodities. That is number one. Number two, African countries look at India and from the same glasses as they look at China. They look at India as an alternative to China. I was in South Africa, I was in Egypt, I've seen Chinese model in the other countries, Angola, Zimbabwe. There is a disillusionment with China. They know the examples of Sri Lanka, the debt trap and all those things. They are wary of it. The temptation to go to China has come down. But if India cannot replace Chinese influence, they will still go back to China because they need the money. They need investment. Therefore, I would say that India should be in conversation with these countries, work out a charter of process, which would be mostly relating to infrastructure, identify what they want, and fill in the gaps.
Okay.
Agriculture, minerals are important, but focus on infrastructure and, of course, what we do the best, human resource development, training, skill development, that goes on. That is highly valuable, plus infrastructure.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you, Vishal.
Okay. Dr. Cholia, do you agree? You know, these 4 areas identified by Mr. Goel there, infrastructure, skill development, agriculture, minerals. The idea is to identify what is it that they need and what is it that we can provide, and then take the cooperation forward.
Yeah, Vishal, in fact, in health and education also, these are, fundamental sectors for Africa's rise. The African Union has the Agenda 2063. They've got a roadmap to achieve major developmental goals. So health and education also, I think India is going to be a major partner. In fact, we have the advantage of the English language, which is quite popular in many countries of Africa, if not all. And these things, the Chinese cannot provide. So I think our Pan-African e-network for e-medicine and e-education, this has really picked up. We have now reached a more advanced stage in this, and we are training thousands of young Africans through remote, and also bringing some of them here to India, and our trainers also go there. So these kind of mobility initiatives to skill and build the capacities, which Ambassador Goel is talking about, that is really going to be our forte. And as far as the physical infrastructure goes, I think we need to do what we call the North-South-South cooperation. We need a richer country. We have paired up with Japan in the past to do the Asia-Africa Growth Corridor. And we have also now committed with Germany to jointly do projects in Africa, in third countries or multiple countries of Africa. So this kind of model where, we have the human resources and the capacity building part, but we don't have the finances to give out large scale loans to build infrastructure, physical infrastructure, the way the Chinese are doing. But then if Germany or Japan comes in, then, or even the US in some cases, we could potentially partner with them. France also, we have a strong strategic relationship with France. France has a lot of control or dominance over parts of West Africa, what they call Francophonie. It's a little controversial because of the neo-colonial impact of France, but wherever possible, we should triangulate. So that way, we can be more credible. And of course, the thing is, Africans really look up to India for medical tourism and such things, and bringing more Africans and exposing them to India. Thousands of African students continue to come in, even in spite of the pandemic, to come in and study in our universities under multiple programs. So those kind of things are lasting, and they will have a more impact in the longer term, because India has to get to the hearts and minds. And of course, we are already doing it. So maybe we need to scale up. I mean, sometimes we say small is beautiful, and in China is, committing these gigantic projects, and we do small, meaningful, quick impact projects. Fine, quick impact projects are good, development initiatives are good, but I think sometimes we have to also scale up with our ambition to become a leading power in the world. I think Africans, like Ambassador Goel was mentioning, also expect that India sometimes can help as a substitute to China. Not always. I mean, they build the hospitals, but we provide the nurses. The software side, the human skill side, those things are our strengths, and that's where I think we need to step up. Maybe focus on some key sectors and do it on a larger scale than we have done in the past.
Indeed, that is significant. It can be small, but it has to be significant, and it has to be viable as well, a viable alternative. And since the China angle is being brought in, I'd like to bring you in here, General Katoch, not only from that perspective, as you know, India being looked up to as an alternative by, some of these African nations to China, alternative to China, but also in terms of, as both the gentlemen are pointing out, the key focus areas, infrastructure, health, education, agriculture, mineral resources as well, and then perhaps at smaller scale, but viable, projects. And let's not forget skill development.
Vishal, when we are looking at China, there is one thing which we should not do. Let me start with that. Please don't compete with Chinese strengths. We should compete with our strengths. Now, China is very good in building infrastructure, let's face it, and they have the money to do it. So if they put in $100 billion or a $200 billion, India can't do that. I'm talking about the whole of Africa over, say, a 10-year period. Now, we don't have that sort of financial clout or that capacity to build infrastructure the way the Chinese can. But Chinese money always comes in at very heavy cost. And that cost may deprive that particular country of their liberty. Now, this is something which we need to make the recipient country aware of, and now concentrate on our strength. So let us not compete one-to-one with China. China's done this, let's do that. It doesn't work that way.
Okay.
Now, where are our key strengths? We are experts as far as agriculture is concerned. I think if we really go into scientific and technical cooperation on agriculture, India can make Africa the grain-producing hub of the whole world. That is the potential. Now, that is something which we can exploit. One, as far as technology, India's got the best technological capacity and capability building as of now. We can beat anybody. Now, that is something, again, I think we should exploit. Third thing is when you're looking at pharma, let us just talk about the vaccine, the COVID vaccine which we have made. Now, next time if something happens, we can make a particular vaccine or something in India, and we can make one in Africa also with African cooperation. So in the health sector, there is a great deal which we can do. But everything which we are doing, it should really be to empower the Africans, and it should be based on their needs. So this is their, when each and every African country, as the ambassador very rightly pointed out, there are 54 countries. Each of them is different. Each of them has got different desires, different development goals. We have to look into what they want and then exploit it. We have great potential. We are a face which people like to work with, and I think let us exploit our strengths and become world leaders in this sense.
Okay. Let me bring in a final concluding comment from Ambassador Goel here as well. Ambassador Goel, before we bring this discussion to an end, the point is vis-a-vis the strategic aspect of this entire relation, because all of you mentioned about how Senegal and Gabon is really important vis-a-vis how the visit has been, Vice President's visit to these two countries at the international level. When we're talking about the global construct here, the geopolitical situation also, and of course, looking at it from a diplomatic angle.
Very briefly, I think this idea has already been discussed in this by this panel. The strong need is for discussions at functional level between India and these countries to identify what their core interests are. Identify the areas of interest where we can pitch in with our expertise, with whatever resources we have. I think what Dr. Sriram Cholia mentioned about triangulation is a great idea. If not France, Germany will be a very willing partner, I'm sure. Do the triangulation, get the resources, bring in our competencies, talk to them, see what they need, and where we can pitch in.
Okay, there it is. Thank you so much, Mr. Goel. Yes, Dr. Cholia, you wanted to say something quick? If you can have a quick concluding one.
Yeah, Vishal, I just wanted to mention that our investors, Indian investors in Africa, mostly concentrated in services sector, like telecom. Bharti Group, for example, is a huge player there. So information is something where, we need to influence more minds. And I believe, the Chinese, their newspapers, the television channels, their digital mobile apps, they're all over the place in Africa. Wherever you go there, you find Chinese information in local languages. They've got correspondents there. So they're, it's a kind of almost, hegemonic presence there.
Indeed.
We don't need to do that, but we certainly need to give an Indian perspective on our approach to Africa. Sometimes Africans ask, what are you here for? Do you want our minerals? What is your purpose here? Although PM has articulated it very well and our diplomats try to do it, still there is a lot of confusion because of this China comparison. So what is it about India brand in Africa? I think we need to clarify it with greater simplicity and also in a way to get across to ordinary people across the continent.
Okay, so the thought and the idea is that what is it that we can do? What is it that India can do for the African countries and in turn, of course, mutual benefits vis-a-vis the cooperation on various aspects. Thank you so much, Dr. Cholia, Ambassador Goel again, and General Katoch as well for sharing your views and insight. As our experts were pointing out, clearly there are various aspects where India can go ahead and help out the African countries in various sectors, such as agriculture being the one where we have expertise, technology being the other one. Infrastructure, of course, is the need of the hour for these African countries, and so is skill development, something which has been going on with a lot of African students studying in Indian universities also. So a lot of opportunities there, a lot of avenues for further cooperation between India and the 54 African countries. We'll keep a close watch on all the developments here vis-a-vis India's Africa outreach and bring you more details and other topics as well. Till then, keep watching Sansad Television. Thank you.